Chapter 25. A Trip to the Pastor's Office. Given the short preparation time, Johnny Bassanio, the trumpeting evangelist turned pastor, was quite prepared. There was some preliminary chit-chat about how sorry he was that the circumstances had brought us here, how sad it all was, how Vicky deserved better. For a minute, from his somber tone, I thought we were discussing a funeral. Any minute, I expect him to pull out the catalog of caskets in which to bury old Tim. It turns out he didn't need a casket. The church's money was going to be used for other things, like ruining Tim's life and helping the victim squeeze as much blood as possible out of Tim the turnip. He was a gargantuan man. He sat across from me at his gargantuan desk. He said there had been much discussion. No doubt about that. And there were some things that, if I agreed to them, would enable me to take a leave of absence and return when my report card was all A's. I heard, "We are going to take away the urges so you don't ruin your ministry." John handed me the printed list, but read it out loud in his best evangelist voice for extra punch. Number 1, reparative therapy. So predictable. They had found a place in Arizona that could take me right away. I researched it later. They used all means, including shock therapy. This was like an intervention. I expected my family to walk in at any minute. Number 2, sharing in Jesus' name. I was to make a list of all church staff members and highly visible volunteers who were either gay or whom I suspected were gay. Dale Garrett would have been one of those on the list. Number 3, I would stand in front of the church, not on the street in front of the church, in front of thousands at the church, and allow 2 members of the ministerial staff to accuse me of the sin of homosexuality. I would acknowledge my sin and ask for forgiveness from the whole congregation. I was way too much in shock to even ponder the music I would choose for that service. Later I would. Number 4, I was to cease my friendship with Barbara Bamberg, one of the assistant accompanists, because she was considered to have aided and abetted my behavior. That one hurt, and maybe the one I was least willing to do. John continued, "If you refuse any of these, you will need to resign your position at the church. In fact, the resignation letter has already been penned." They knew they had made the conditions so ridiculous that the letter was a non-starter for anyone but a crazy person. They were going to fire me anyway. They just thought they could emasculate me and get me to accuse innocent people on my way out the door. Even though I was floating somewhere between disbelief and shock, I had not lost my center. I somehow found the courage to thank him for his time. I said something to the effect of, "I will not be completing the requirements on your list." Actually, none of the above. I walked out of his office, and I walked out of life as I knew it. It was October 1986. Oh, I could have stayed and done the things I was asked to do. I could have lived a lie to keep the house of cards from falling and the sky with them. I'd done that and learned the names of so many others who were doing the same, but that was not who I was. Dad always said one of my Achilles' heels was my penchant for telling the truth, even when it's not popular. This was one enormous truth. I was thrown under the church bus. It then rolled over me, backed up, and rolled over me again. It was a disaster. No FEMA, no Red Cross, no safety net, no community, no resources. I was displaced completely.